Hey everyone, if you don't know me, I'm Micaiah, I'm 25, and I get on here to just run my mouth and share my experiences with you all. This channel is kind of like a video diary opportunity, except I'm sharing it with the internet. So yeah, let's get into it. I think one of the hardest things I've had to learn in life is the act of releasing control. As I've gotten older, and also as a recovering perfectionist slash Virgo, present, I've realized that it's okay to not have control over everything in your life. I think in the past, just whether I was in school or the extracurricular activities that I was involved in, I just always wanted to be the best. I always wanted to succeed, and I always had a plan. Hey, I've always had a plan. And so, yeah, there have been many a times where I was working tirelessly, wanting to, just really excel and achieve so many different things that were in alignment with the plan that I had set up for myself. So I was always, I can't even say was, I'm still trying to work through this. I've always been the type of person to have at least a 3 to 7 year plan. That's so specific, but it's true. When I was in middle school, I was working tirelessly. Okay, I'm going to start taking these types of dance classes. I'm going to be participating in this extracurricular activity to achieve this, or to make, my resume look good, or to get into this college. And then once I made it to high school, it just went into overdrive. Okay, I need to start joining these extracurriculars in order to be noticed by these programs within my school and outside of my school. And so that can be a lot, just always in pursuit of the next thing, always, wanting a specific outcome, which I don't think is terrible. But what I think really, really affected me and has been a lesson that has taken me years to learn is that sometimes you don't know what is right for you. Point blank, period. You don't. And so I think every time I was met with that lesson, it never resonated. I was like, why didn't I get this program? Or I would be extremely hard on myself. You didn't get that because you're not good enough. Or this goal that you were in pursuit of didn't happen because you didn't work hard enough. You didn't put in the extra hours, okay? So that means we need to go harder. Oh my God. And while I can admire the hard work and the determination, my mental health was in the gutter because I think that my self-esteem was purely based, a lot of it was purely based on what parts of my plan I did achieve and I did hit. So when I didn't hit it, girl, self-esteem literally flushed the toilet down the drain. I was like, I didn't work hard enough. I'm not good enough. Like, these things don't happen for me because maybe I don't deserve it, but I'm gonna make it happen. I've always been Mrs. Make It Happen. I'm laughing, but it's true. And so if something didn't happen for me, I clocked the fucking and put in my overtime, and surely enough, it did happen, just not at the time that I wanted it to. So that's another thing. I think this is also a good way to tie in dealing with rejection, because I do think it is kind of like a loop or a circle. They kind of feed into each other, having the need to control everything around you, being an avid planner, being a hard worker, and then having your self-esteem tied to your achievements. What happens when you don't achieve that thing in the time that you wanted it to? That rejection can feel like the end of the world. It truly can. And so there was a time, we're gonna go down memory lane. So one of my first, there's been many of rejections I faced. World was rocked, but hey, we're here to tell the tale. And so one of the first times I had really experienced rejection that hit me to my core was when I was, I believe, a sophomore in high school. There was this program, it was a dance company. I really, really wanted to be on it. And if you watch my previous video, I talk about my relationship with dance. It was very awky. That's another story. So I think I was just so in my head at this point in my journey with dance, I didn't enjoy it. What dance was for me when I started, it was a form of expression. It was fun. It was a way for me to meet new people. It was a way for me to just have these amazing opportunities. You know, growing up, I did hip hop. I am from Sacramento, and so I got to dance for the King. And this was when I was like 8 years old. It was so much fun, but I had so many amazing opportunities, from being able to dance for the Kings to dancing at UC Berkeley football games to dancing for the Monarchs or different sports teams throughout Northern California. It was just so much fun. However, you know, I think once my innocence as a child began to vanish and my desire for control started to increase, it was a goal of mine to get onto this dance company at my school when I was in my junior year, because in my head I was like, this will allow me to have this on my resume for college, that I'd done it for 2 years. That's how to the detail I was. So me and all of my friends auditioned. Honestly, was not in the right headspace because I went into it nervous, because there was so much on the line for me to get that, I guess, acceptance onto the dance company, you know. I wasn't thinking of it in the sense of, this will just be an enjoyable experience. This will allow me to express myself. This will be a creative outlet for me. And so I didn't go into it with the correct mindset. I was very anxious. I was very nervous, you know. I wasn't grounded at all. Audition was not my best. I'm not even gonna hold you. Audition was not my best. So I wasn't feeling confident entering the audition, as well as not feeling confident leaving it. And so I had a lot of anxiety centered around that position on the company. Me and my friends go out. We actually went to a concert one night, and that's when, what was it called? Just pretty much like the results would come out. They would send it in an email. My name was not on that list. Not only that, all of my friends had gotten on except for me. Whew! I was so just devastated, and I think there were so many layers to it of I didn't feel good enough. I felt that I had failed. I always used to view rejection as, you're a failure. Every single time, especially if there was a timeline attached to the thing I wanted to achieve. So it took me months to bounce back from that. But I think at that time, again, Mrs. Make It Happen, I was like, I'm gonna go harder. The joy that I got from dance was stripped away because of my own expectations and pressure I put on myself. And so the next year I did audition, and I got accepted into the company, which was amazing. And I had so much fun. And then it became the pursuit of the next thing. I want to be this role in this part of the performance, or I want to do this, or why am I always in the back? Nothing was ever good enough. And so I think combined my desire to control everything around me, as well having my plan and my achievements tied to my self-esteem, very, very, very toxic relationship, very, very, very bad habit to get into. And I'll be real, it didn't stop after that. I would say in college it only got worse, because I got into a very great college for STEM, but I've always been a creative at my core. That's been me. I'm also just a pretty naturally curious person. I love learning. I love dabbling in different experiences. I think that's why my resume literally looks insane. Mind your business. Anyway, so I went into college undeclared. I had not picked a major. And mind you, I was first gen, so I didn't really have anybody in my family to lean on when it came to how to navigate college. My stepdad, he did go to college, but he got a full ride to ASU as an athlete. I think athletes' experiences in college are very different. You just have unlimited resources compared to just, someone who's not an athlete. And so even though there were, key pointers he gave me, it still just didn't really resonate with me because I didn't go into college as an athlete. So I kind of was just meandering around aimlessly, didn't really know what I was doing my freshman year. And then as I started to meet more people on campus, girl, the perfectionism jumped out. I was meeting people whose parents had been orthopedic surgeons, doctors, lawyers. Their first year was for networking. They had joined all the Greek life. They were in all the extracurriculars. They were doing Excel program. When I tell you, I was like, you gotta get on your Zoom. Remember I heard that, and the one thing that stuck out to me was I need to study something in the sciences so I can have a stable career right out of college so that I can make this amount of money so that I can do this by the time I'm 26. So I declared my major, environmental toxicology, and once again, I was met with the advisor. She was like, it's a very rigorous major. You're going to have to take a lot of very hard STEM classes all at the same time. And at Davis, it's on quarter system, so you only have 10 weeks. So it's even more accelerated. But again, I think that's probably the one good thing that came out of my need to control everything is that the noise, I'd be like this, but you don't know who you're talking to. Like, I'm gonna make that shit shake. I'm gonna make it happen. And I've always had that driving force of making it happen for me, has always just allowed me to achieve everything that I've planned out for myself. However, I would always run into roadblocks in terms of the timing. If I did not get what I wanted at the time I had planned for it to happen, all hell broke loose. And then here. And so they were delaying my application. I was getting pissed off because I wanted to graduate at a certain time. And so I just took it upon myself. I started taking all these classes. My major change or declaration hadn't even been approved yet. The advisor was messaging me every 4 weeks with updates. I was like, nah, I'm taking matters into my own hands. Now y'all are gonna have to approve it. I started taking the chem classes. I started taking the bio classes. I just took all of my prereqs and all of my what is it called? Undergraduate courses. So then by the time they approved my fucking application, it was like, you know what? She already halfway there. Let's do it. And so it got approved. I got my major officially changed, I want to say when I was like a junior in college, which was right on time because that's when I needed to start taking my upper division courses. I remember I applied because I had a whole plan laid the out. Because I didn't have anyone in my family to kind of like help me navigate college and navigate these courses, I had to create one myself. So my goal, once I started to hear all of the plans and the goals and aspirations my peers had, I was like, you're going to get a job as an environmental scientist for the California Environmental Protection Agency. That's what you're gonna do. And I don't wanna hear any complaints, period. I was miserable in college because the coursework was just not my thing, okay? But I made it fit. I sure did, you know. Those classes are already hard to begin with, but when I tell you I would get a grade back, and when I didn't even make the average, oh my God. That was just torturous. It just hit after hit after hit to my self-esteem. I kid you not. And so I went harder. I was not sleeping. I was not eating. If you look at pictures of me in college, I look gray. I look like Nosferatu. Genuinely a shell of a human because I was so stressed out from the amount of pressure I was putting on myself to make my plan happen, not even God's plan, my plan. And it did happen, but sometimes I look back at what cost, girl? You weren't healthy physically, mentally, spiritually. And so I got my degree. So once I graduated, I got offered a position with the California Environmental Protection Agency. I was ecstatic. I was so happy. The minute I walked into my new office, deep down, I was like, you're not supposed to be here. No shade, because the work that they're doing is important. Just typical 9-to-5 culture. And I just deep down, I was like, wow, I did not feel fulfilled or happy or content with my decision. But I was like, you put in all this work and now you gotta write it out. I don't give a damn. You gotta write it out. I bring that whole story up because I think what I learned is that my need to control everything had led me to very unhealthy habits of just negative self-talk, extreme amount of pressure, taking rejection as a direct hit and immediately telling myself, you're a failure, you need to go harder, especially for things that maybe the timing just wasn't aligned. Maybe there were certain lessons that I needed to learn before I achieved that. But I think that when I was, and I'm still working on this, but when I was in the thick of my desire to control everything, my mental health was the main one catching, like, not even strays. Like, my mental health was in the gutter because I had no patience. I had no grace for myself. My self talk was terrible, and everything felt like a punishment. I don't even know if that makes sense, but everything felt like a punishment. Nothing was enjoyable because I was determined to hit every single goal on the path I had set for myself or had planned out for myself. And so when it didn't happen, it pissed me off, genuinely. I ended up quitting that job. I didn't even make it to a year. I ended up quitting it. Very important work that they're doing, just not for me, because deep down, girl, I'm a creative, okay? I need to be making art, or I need to be doing this. And so I quit my job. I decided to move. I had nothing lined up. And that was the first time that I had really surrendered and just been like, universe, God, show me the way. I'll let you drive now. My bad. Show me the way. And so I moved across the country. I had nothing lined up, no job, no apartment. I moved here, secured a job by the end of the month. I really trusted that process. I'm just letting the universe show me the way for once. And I met great people at this job, people that will be in my life forever. I grew so much. I found an apartment 2 months after I got the job. Was it extremely smooth sailing? No, of course not. There were so many lessons I needed to learn, but I think that was the key point for me, was that surrendering and just allowing the universe and God to show me the way, and letting go of my desire to control any and everything around me allowed me to see way more clearly, because the things that were meant for me just fell into my lap. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God. Rather than in college, I felt as though I was forcing all of that to happen. And while I did make it happen, like, miserable doing it. Miserable management. And so I'm at a point in my life, I have no idea even what the next month will look like for me. My lease is currently running out. Don't really have an apartment lined up. Don't really have the funds to fund that move. But I think that I have way less anxiety and stress and just overall lower blood pressure. Let me run it back, because I always reference this book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Thank you, Maya. One affirmation they have in the book is that if you constantly feel like you're worrying or you're anxious about a certain outcome and you're putting so much pressure on yourself to make it happen, one key affirmation that really helped me calm TF down was, whatever's meant for me will not miss me. That's something, I know it seems cliche, I know it's all over TikTok University. Sometimes you just need to tell yourself that and keep it pushing. I find a lot of peace in that affirmation, because I always used to think, if it doesn't happen, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not good enough, you're a piece of shit, go harder. Who said all that? So that's an affirmation I like to repeat. These are things I script, I be saying on the train in my head, and I mumble, because optimism is the only way to go for me, because I lived my last 15 years in pure pessimism and pure just like toxic mindset. I don't know, it wasn't a good look. And so I think that allowing yourself to release control and let things happen, obviously I think it's great to have passions and desires, but you never want to force anything. And that goes for people as well. I sometimes cringe at the fact that I ain't never had a boyfriend, and that used to cause me so much just embarrassment. I felt a lot of shame around that, and I would always be like, you're not good enough. That's why that hasn't happened for you. But when you look at my roster, truly, no one even respectable on there. I think the lesson that I had to learn is that there's no point in forcing things to happen, because whatever is meant for you will not miss you. Point blank, period. And that's something I think I really needed to hone in on with dating. Before that mindset, dating was a very unenjoyable experience for me, just because I was so focused on my plan of, you need to secure Mr. Right before you're 25. Girl, I'm turning 26 this year. Man in question, I'm like this. Nowhere to be found. And that's okay, because I'm just trusting the process. And I also have recognized relationships are a lot of work. And I think there are a lot of lessons I need to learn. I'm not even putting this all on the people I dated. I don't think I've been ready for a relationship because my self esteem has not been or was not there. My self talk was not there. I was intimidated by having hard conversations, and I thought that having boundaries made me difficult. No, these are not the right mindsets to have when dating or when approaching life, period. And so I think that also, last point, and I'm wrapping this up, I promise. I think that releasing control and not taking rejection as a direct correlation to you're a failure, instead of being like, that door closed for you because there are maybe four more will open. You don't know. You genuinely don't know. And so I think that allowing myself to just ride the wave of life has helped me really take the time to look within and hold myself accountable about, okay, this is where I think I could do a little better as a person, as a human in this game called life, you know, because not everything is about your job title, how much money you got in the bank, who you got on your arm. It's really not about that. So there's no point in even comparing yourself to other people and their journeys, because we're all different, and that's what makes it so special. I really hope this was helpful. I kind of rambled, but that's the point of my channel. Know that everything is working out for you in your favor, you know? What's working out in my favor might not be in your favor because we're different, but it's gonna work out in your favor because that's what's right for you. And sometimes we think we know what's best for us. We think we have it all figured out. We don't. And that is okay, okay? That is okay. And I'm sleeping peacefully. I feel healthy. I'm glowing, low key. I couldn't say this 5 years ago. Girl, you would be like this, Micaiah, you need to be put on an IV. And I'm talking stat. Anyway, just be present. Ride the wave of life. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's not that serious, you know? I love y'all so much. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and let me know maybe more topics you want to hear me discuss or yap on. But yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.